And I'm going to let in the audience.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to our meeting, our special meeting tonight of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners, September 30th, 2021. It is 6 o'clock. I'd like to convene the meeting, please. So if we could do a roll call. Melanie?
Commissioner Shane Crawley,
Present.
Commissioner Ryrie, Commissioner Matoush,
Here.
Commissioner Zemke,
Here.
Commissioner Lorenas.
Here.
Great, thank you, commissioners. We'll move on to item B, which is public comments. I'd like to open up public comments for items that are not on the agenda. If you have any public comments you would like to make, please raise your hand and we will unmute you.
I see no hands raised.
Okay. Last call for public comments. Okay. William Smith. This is for items that are not on the agenda.
Good evening. Am I off mute?
You are.
Okay.
You have 2 minutes, Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much, Virginia Carley. I just wanted to address this forum that I find the video forum works extremely well for those of us that work for a living here to be able to attend meetings without having to physically be there. I want to thank you for using this forum, and I look forward to continuing in the same format. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised for public comment for items that are not on the agenda. So I will close public comment and then we will go to our regular agenda item, which is the wholesale fish offloads, and which is the reason that this public workshop is happening tonight. So Jim, if you would like to take it from here, why don't we kick off this item?
Fantastic and good evening. Once again, thank you to those who participated in Tuesday night's meeting. It was well attended and we received a lot of valuable information. Tonight, I'm hoping for the same. So please speak up and provide your thoughts and opinions. The issues being discussed tonight were presented to the Harbor Board on April 15th. Following the presentation, the board directed staff to develop a public workshop in order to receive further public input on the topics. Tonight is a result of that direction. Tonight, we are going to discuss 4 separate issues, all related to the wholesale sale of fish products in and on Pillar Point Harbor. One topic is commercial activity permits for visiting fishing vessels, conducting offloads in Pillar Point. Second item is non-tenant wholesale buyers conducting business at Pillar Point Harbor without a valid commercial activity permit. The third issue is the use of floating docks by third-party commercial fish buyers to purchase and offload seafood. And then finally, the use of the public hoist for commercial offloads to third-party fish buyers. The first issue as discussed was visiting vessels conducting commercial wholesale offloads. Visiting fishing vessels directing offloads in Pillar Point Harbor. I want to make it very clear, we're not discussing Pillar Point fishing vessels that pay slip fee to the Harbor District. This topic only concerns visiting fishing vessels which do not have a slip at Pillar Point. Currently, the Harbor District does not enforce that aspect of Ordinance Code 510010, which requires fishing vessels which do not pay berthing fees to the district to obtain a commercial activity permit prior to conducting commercial offloads at Pillar Point. As required by the code, no person shall conduct or operate a business or service for hire or compensation within the boundaries of the district or on or from lands owned by the district unless a permit is first obtained from the district. With specific reference to commercial fishing vessels, vessels within the harbor or marinas of the district shall not be used for any commercial purpose unless a permit is first obtained from the district. In the case of a commercial fishing vessel, the payment of berthing fees to the district and appropriate fishing permit fees to the state of California or U.S. government constitutes permission to conduct commercial fishing operations, excluding any wholesale buying or the retail selling on the premises. Retail selling would be off the boat sales. Those two activities require an additional permit from the district. Under this ordinance, visiting fishing vessels, again, which do not pay berthing fees to the district, must first obtain a commercial activity permit to offload in Pillar Point Harbor. It's staff's recommendation that the Harbor District begin enforcement of this ordinance and require fishing vessels to obtain the commercial activity permit to conduct commercial offloads. Because the district did not actively enforce this ordinance, it is staff's recommendation the district delay enforcement until January 1st, 2022. The cost of the permit would be for the general cost of a commercial activity as published by the district, currently $290. The questions we're looking into, and there could be more, how much should the permit fee be for visiting vessels conducting commercial offloads? Should the cap be issued per offload per season or annually? Should the visiting vessel be offered a limited cap if conducting a single offload? If yes, what should be the fee? How should the fees be collected by the district or through the fish buyer offloading the vessel? Again, it's staff's recommendation that a single annual cap be issued at the published rate, currently $290. That will provide a visiting vessel 12-month cap to offload catch at Pillar Point Harbor. And before moving on to the next subject, I'd like to open this one up for discussion first, and that's the cap for visiting fishing vessels conducting offloads in the harbor. So if you have a comment, concern, or question, please raise your hand and we'll address it. Sam? Melody, can you let Sam in? Thank you. Unmute. Sam, are you there?
He should be able to unmute himself. Let me send him.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, guys, my name is Sam Seguia. I've been a commercial fisherman in Half Moon Bay on and off for about 20 years. Since about 2014, I've been full-time out of Half Moon Bay. One thing about this visiting fee, the fee for the visiting offloads, I have worked for other vessels and we have offloaded in other harbors, and other harbors do not charge us a commercial activity permit fee to offload our seafood. They get their income however they do, but it's not from us. It's not direct from the fishermen. And since you guys aren't down there as much as I am and you're not seeing what I'm seeing, we do not have vessels that come in and stay for extended periods of time from other areas. They come in, offload, and then they hit the road. I just don't think that's fair, seeing as how, every time we turn around, the harbor is trying to impose another fee on the commercial fishermen. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Brendan.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
So what is this, if this is, we're going to be having this cap on boats, what about the vessels that come who use the launch ramp that just are like a day guy, who just use a launch ramp, they're commercial registered, and usually they take their fish in their boat and fill out a transfer ticket, which is issued from Fish and Game, to where you say I catch my fish in Oyster Point, I fill out a transfer ticket, I have that ticket in my possession, I get to Half Moon Bay, I sell them off the dock. I sell that. It used to be you send in that transfer ticket with your landing tag, but now I just keep them for my records, So just wonder how launch ramp guys and how we Because there's a lot of commercial guys that do use the launch that come in, not just the boats that are stuck in the water.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Porter McHenry is next.
Brandon, if you can mute yourself. Porter? Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My
Loud and clear.
thoughts. All right, my thoughts on this one. Ideally, I would like to see the ordinance changed. When vessels come in and offload with us, most of them will get slip for either a night or two, if possible. There are a few that come in, offload, and immediately take off. They're not causing any much stress on the harbor when they do that, and they are, the harbor's getting revenue off the offloading poundage fees. Just for simplicity, maybe we could change the wording on that to just eliminate it, since the harbor's getting paid. Another, side issue is a lot of vessels would love to stay in the harbor, but we don't have the slips. So, until we redo the docks and increase the pier size, it's not even fair when they're not even have the ability to get a slip here. That's my thoughts there, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Porter. Melanie, do you see who's next?
Yes, I think the hand was up and now it's down. Veronica, she did have her hand up, but now it's lowered. I think there's no more hands raised. Oh, Veronica's got her hand raised again. I'm sorry. Here we go.
Sorry about that. I just have a quick question. If this is imposed on the out-of-town boats, then also would you also place on these boats the fees that we're discussing just on Monday night as well? On what their income was made from the harbor during their stay here, even though they're out of town?
I didn't get that question. Can you restate it?
Sure. My question was, the other night we spoke about an additional percentage being, being paid to the harbor out of what the commercial fishermen make off the dock sales, correct?
Right.
So with the out of town boats that come into the harbor to do dock sales, would they also have that fee?
Yes, I understand your question, Veronica. That's a completely separate question for off the boat sales. And yes, off the boat sales requires a separate cap. And if it's a percentage, it's a percentage. If it's a one-time fee, it'll be a one-time fee. But the out-of-town boats will pay the same or more than what we pay for local boats.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions about visiting vessels for commercial offloads?
It looks like Lisa has her hand raised.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Great, thanks. Thanks again for hosting this workshop. I think that these are great to be able to get feedback. And I just wanted to sort of reiterate what Porter said. I mean, visiting vessels are a part of the business that's conducted at the end of the pier by the 3 fish buying tenants. We service the fleet here locally and also sometimes boats that are coming in from other ports. And I think that those fees should be covered in our rent and in the offloading and purchasing fees that we pay quarterly to the harbor. And so I just wanted to get clarification that you're suggesting that, like a squid boat that comes in needs to have that permit, even though they're conducting their business with existing tenants in the harbor. I didn't think that was what you meant, but it kind of sounds like that's what you meant. And I just wanted some clarification on that. Thank you.
That's exactly what the ordinance says. So that's what we're recommending. And again, my recommendations are based on the ordinance that we have on the books now. And they've been on the books for a long time. We just haven't enforced them, from what I can tell. So unless the ordinance gets changed, staff's recommendation that those visiting boats coming into offload obtain a cap as required by the ordinance. Anybody else have a question before we move on to the next topic?
Looks like there's no hands raised.
And President Shane Corrali, my intention is to go through all four, and then I assume you want to take the meeting back over to the board and do board comments then, or do you want to do it in between each one?
No. Well, you know what? Let me ask my fellow commissioners what they prefer, because there are pretty many items and I don't want anyone to kind of get confused. So commissioners, what is your preference, to do these between the items, or have Jim go through his entire report, if you will, and take public comment? I mean, because they're obviously pluses and minuses. So if you'd like to go through the items individually after public comment, that's fine too. So whatever y'all prefer. What is there a preference, commissioners? Bill?
This is Bill. I don't necessarily have a preference. I think it might make sense to go through the entire list of issues before we comment.
Commissioner Lorenas?
The only downside I see going through everything at once is that if some members of the public are only interested in one or two of the topics, then they won't be available for questions. So I presume most folks are going to stay for the meeting, but that could be a problem.
Commissioner Matoush?
I was going to say I'd like to just go through the whole thing, but I'm taking notes as we do this. So I'll have my comments presented at the end in group.
Okay, so here are my thoughts, and I'm not trying to spend more time, than we need to, but I do think maybe if we go individually, sorry, Tom and Bill, that it might help clarify with the commission, commissioners, that we're talking about specific items. So I would, Jim, if it's totally, that's what I would prefer. And then we can get the overall picture, Tom, like with your notes and things. I'm taking notes too. So I don't know. I mean, I just don't want us to forget what was said on an individual basis. So
I have no preference. And so your reasoning is very sound to me. So I agree with it.
Yeah. Okay. So commissioners, for this first item, do you have any comments that you would like to make or discuss? And we can always circle back as well. I just want to give us the opportunity to talk about this first. And then at the end, if you want to wait until we hear the whole picture, we can always talk about them individually as well. I mean, this is a public workshop, so people are entitled to hear what we have to say. But I just want to give us an opportunity if you want to take this item first.
Virginia, I had one question to Jim. Does he have any idea of what percentage of the boats, what percentage of the business are we talking about, the visiting boats to the existing fish buyers?
I do not know. That would have to be, we'd have to actually implement it and then follow it up with after a year's worth of business. The fish buyers may have a better understanding of how many boats that is, but I do not.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Matoush?
I thought it might be good to clarify or add end tie, mooring, anchor outs, and launch ramp into our language, just so that people are clear that we're covering everyone. There was a comment about other harbors don't charge. I'd like to know just generally how many other harbors and marinas are enterprise districts and use taxpayer subsidized for operating expenses. And then addressing or just specifying end ties, side ties during times of popular fishing. Sometimes when the crab or salmon is good, we'll see boats tied 3/4 thick on end ties.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Well, my mute. Okay. This has a long history with the district, and I suspect that the reason the ordinance was not enforced all that time is because that was an easier thing to do, going back to when the ordinance was written and ignored. And I'm in complete agreement with Porter and Lisa on this. I think if the district sees a need for increase monies going through the fish buyers, then we should do it through them. It would simplify our work. And with respect to other aspects of commercial vessels coming in, we have mechanisms by which we can control what they do. So if they pick up a slip, we have rules about that. If they anchor out, we also have ways of dealing with that. So I think it would simplify it much, much, much more by just getting rid of that ordinance altogether. And I'll have more comments, but I'll save them for later.
I don't have any comments, Jim. I'm just listening right now. I don't know if you can hear me. Can y'all hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Commissioner.
Okay. So, do you want to go to the next section, Jim, which is the non-lessee wholesale fish buyers? You're on mute, Jim.
Yes. Moving on to the second issue, the non-leasee wholesale fish buyers. With the reference to non-leasee wholesale fish buyers, Ordinance Code 510010 F3 provides commercial activity permits for non-leasee commercial fish buyers shall be obtained by submitting completed applications at either Pillar Point office or district administration office for review by the general manager. The general manager shall approve or deny the permit within 30 days. Currently, the district has no commercial activity permits issued to non-leasee wholesale fish buyers. However, this activity is occurring on Johnson Pier with individual vessels coordinating and selling their catch directly to third-party non-leasee wholesale fish buyers. When this activity is discovered by staff at Pillar Point, the third-party buyers are directed to cease or conduct the offload via the leasee tenant fish buyer at the end of the pier. Like the commercial activity permit for visiting vessels, the district has not been actively enforcing this requirement. As a result, it's staff's recommendation that if we do issue these permits, we implement it in January 1st, 2022. However, consideration should be also be given to prevent or cease the issuance of commercial activity permits for these buyers based on the congestion of the pier and the very limited space on the floating docks. So the question is do we want to implement these commercial activity permits for third-party fish buyers? And two, in the alternative, do we even want to issue these at all or cease issuing them based on the congestion on the pier and the limited space on the floating docks? With that, I'll open up the questioning or comments to the public. If you have a comment, question, or concern, if you could raise your hand and we'll call on you. Porter.
Hello again. I like this recommendation. As a tenant at the end of the pier, it's quite costly between the monthly rents, the offloading fees, all the other expenses it takes to run a business. And as a district should know, it's an enterprise district, and we got to do it to make an income. Another aspect is we also pay insurance. We're set up. We have just went through a massive safety operation plan at the end of the pier for us to operate safely out there. With all these aspects, I think it's a great recommendation, and the harbor should protect its existing tenants. Thank you.
And Port, I just want to make it, what I said two different things here for consideration. One is commercial activities. Should we start enforcing the commercial activity on third-party buyers? And should we delay that to January 1st, 2022? Or on the alternative, based on the congestion on the pier right now and the limited space on the floating docks, should we just cease third-party commercial buyers from operating in Pillar Point? I'm assuming the alternative where we prevent it is what you agreed with. Sam.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, so I do agree with Porter that some of the third-party buyers should, you should start enforcing some of these commercial activity permits on them. As far as cease and assist, I can't agree with that. I'm a commercial rock fisherman. A lot of my buyers come from either restaurants and or wholesalers that pay me a whole lot more than what I get offered at the end of the pier. So by ceasing out of, non-leasee buyers from operating in Half Moon Bay, I mean, that would be a drastic hit to my finances. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Anybody else have a comment? Well, phone number ending in 9711.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, this is Todd Ports. So this is a very deep and thorny issue. I completely agree with what Sam just said. He's an independent operator. He's got his little gig that he does. He's got various markets he sells to. He needs to be enabled to conduct his business as should any other independent, I'm going to say independent fisherman business out there. Hopefully, I'm sure all the directors on the commission understand that the Half Moon Bay Seafood Marketing Association, the directors, the president are occupants on 2 of the 3 hoists out there. Those 2 or 3 hoists mainly are hoists like Flow Through, because you have ASC, which is a great buyer, buys a lot through Porter mainly, and Kevin at ASC is a great guy, as is NorCal, who uses Porter's hoist normally. And I know that with the Betancourt and the other hoist next to Larry, they've got some other great big, wholesaler, and that's all good business, and whoever sells to them, that's all fine. However, we end up in a situation like last year where the crab season can get very contentious and political and different business objectives, different perspectives on how things should be handled. Last year, myself and others thought that the crab season should be open in District 10, and knowing that we would have a much higher price than was being offered by Pacific Choice. Some of us eventually went, and we were basically, we could not, we were completely blocked by association members, as well as every hoist out there. We weren't able to unload. That is illegal. That is RICO, for the it's the antitrust issues. This issue has been, I need to make everybody aware of this. It's been escalated up to the California Department of Justice. If the harbor does not allow third-party buyers in there, you are really hurting all the independent fishermen. And the commissioners should make themselves very well aware of the case 1984 U.S. Department of Justice versus the Del Norte Fishermen's Association, read that. It's what's legal and what's illegal. And what's been happening in the past is very illegal.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate the
And
comments.
yep.
Brandon Jenkins.
I'm with Porter on it. I agree, that there is some, it's kind of just like the boats that come in, in offload. There's guys that come in and buy fish that aren't paying and leave, So I believe that there should be an enforcement of that. I don't think that there should be cease and insist, but that's, I think there's a couple issues here that need to be talked to almost separately. Because then when you get into the priority of the pier or the congestion of the pier, who does have priority of the pier? Because some of the slip holders get shoved off the pier when the big trucks come on there. And just wondering, and then also it goes into, there's the retail license too, where a fisherman can buy their retail license and sell directly to a restaurant. So there's, I guess they have to buy the dock sales permit then too, or something, or the cap permit. There's a lot of different kind of issues that we're talking about under the same thing. So just wondered how we're going to handle a few of those other ones.
All right, thanks. The restaurant sales and wholesale, I've used it from my understanding, the restaurants are buying wholesale from you also, or at a reduced price. So this covered the wholesale sale of fish food would cover selling to restaurants also. Any other questions? President Chang Carly, there's no other questions. I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions, concerns, discussion that you would like to happen right now? If so, this is the time to do this for this item regarding the non-lessee wholesale fish buyers. Commissioner Lorenas, I see that you've unmuted if you'd like to make a comment. I'm picking on everyone if you got your unmute button off. Or
That's
your
fine.
mute button off.
Yeah, I have a start off with one question and a comment first. Just like to point out that permits are multifaceted. One aspect of a permit, of course, is that you have to buy the permit and then it costs you some money and it gives the district some money. But that's just one piece of it. Another important part of a permit is that it allows our staff and the commission to exert some oversight into what's happening in our harbors. And you can see from what folks have been saying here is that it's a very complicated issue, and this goes back, I know it goes back a long ways, and there's been a lot going on between fishermen and buyers and wholesalers and so forth. Question I have is for our staff is, it's great to have these ordinances, and if we enforce them, what's going to be the enforcement and the burden on our staff to work through these kinds of permits? I know you guys have our patrol officers, we have a lot of work for them. And how's this going to work? You don't want to have an ordinance that you can't enforce or that you enforce badly, because it just encourages misbehavior. And I'm curious too about what the impact will be, especially during the summertime on the pier, and how staff is looking at this. It seems like there's a lot of thought has to go into this before we make changes and agree to some some form of this ordinance.
I can address that, Commissioner Lorenas.
Right.
The one aspect of not only for pier safety is the reduction of most, if not all, the parking on Johnson Pier. We're enforcing the 20-minute parking on Johnson Pier. We're enforcing when the pier is closed. So we have a much better understanding of who's on the pier and what they're doing, because to be able to drive out there, you have to get the permission of the harbor master first. And then those decisions of allowing a third-party buyer to go out on the pier or a fisherman to go out on the pier is based on the need of the fisherman or the buyer and the need and the safety on the pier. If it's full of pedestrians or semi-trucks, they may not be allowed to go down that pier, and they'll have to use the carts to move their product. And the district is purchasing several new carts for that purpose, to be able to move your product up and down the pier. So the biggest enforcement or tool that we're going to be using is that controlling the parking. We'll know who goes out on the pier. If they don't have a commercial activity permit to buy fish, then they will not be allowed to go out on the pier.
Okay. Just for members of the public, if I'd be interested in what you all have to say about that. Since this format is purpose is to have some discussion surrounding these questions. If anybody has a comment, I'd sure be happy to hear it.
Well, so Commissioner Lorenas, let me see if the other commissioners want to have a comment or a question to add, and then I'll take public comment again. Commissioner Zimke.
Yes, thanks, Virginia. I agree with Ed's comments, and we do need to, this is probably more complicated than I realized to begin with. Look at what it does. We're going to be, demands we're going to be putting on staff and also the tenants there. So I have no additional comments.
Commissioner Matoush.
I listened to what our existing lessees said, and I'm in agreement with the majority of them.
Okay. So public comment right now, that looks like there are 3 hands raised. Jim, I'll turn it over to you for public comments and questions at this point, especially since Commissioner Lorenas wants to hear some, maybe hear some response based on his comments as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Sam.
Yes, sir. So the first issue I have is I keep hearing about pier safety. I've been part of this pier, part of this organization, part of this harbor for, like I said, a long time. Not once have I seen an issue or any accidents on that pier. So you guys keep stressing pier safety, but you're not giving us any examples of an issue that maybe the harbor has had where pier safety was, compromised. The other thing that I would like to comment about was just the other weekend, I rented with some friends of mine the Queen of Hearts. We had 3 handicapped individuals on the boat that I drove down to the end of the pier, dropped them off, took my truck back to the permit parking by the restroom. At the end of the day, when our charter came in, I was extremely, extremely upset that the barricades were up and I was not able to get my truck down to the boat to pick up these handicapped individuals off of my charter. I had to drive around the poles, over a sidewalk, over a curb. I think that needs to be also looked into, because from what I'm seeing an ADA lawsuit completely pending on this by not having handicapped access to the main pier to get to whatever finger and or slip that's needed. So that's one thing that you guys need to really think about. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Veronica.
Veronica, you should be able to unmute yourself. Or push *9. Here, I think I pushed it. Maybe I could do it for you. Nope.
Send her an invite to
Hello?
unmute. There we
Yep,
go.
there
We
she
can hear
goes.
you, Veronica.
Thank you. Since the pier, it's a public pier, correct? So then
Yes.
how does the being a public pier overlap into the harbor master telling a buyer that they cannot go down the pier to take care of business? How does that, or did I misunderstand what you had said previously, what someone had said previously?
For the harbor, both the navigation and harbor code and our district ordinances
Mhm.
to conduct commercial business with government property,
Yes,
we have the authority to issue or require commercial activity permits and also the authority to control how it's done for the safety of the public and the safety of the facilities.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Todd? Ending in 39711. Excuse me.
Todd, you should be able to unmute yourself. Let me send you a request. There you go.
Am I unmuted now?
Oh, you're good. Oh, looks like you unmuted yourself again. Or hold on. I'm going to send you another request, Todd.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So the other day 2 days ago, we had a conference call talking about off the dock retail sales by commercial fishermen like me, like a lot of other people, like Sam who just spoke. And you're trying to charge a fee to increase revenue. So what I'm having a hard time, and I'd like to hear from every commissioner, why by restricting the ability for small wholesalers that are trying to grow their business outside of the harbor, maybe they're San Francisco or wherever they may be in the state of California or beyond, why would you want to restrict commerce and competition? This idea about safety, I just got back from Alaska last night, parked the boat, and I'm just around the harbor. We offloaded some tuna. Jim was over there, saw us offloading our albacore, and at the public hoist, going to cold storage. And small buyers, I just don't know why you would want to restrict competition. And it's my belief that at 60,000 feet, when you really look at some of the stuff with this safety on the pier and all this stuff, there is a concerted effort, and I'm going to highlight this again, by the buyers at the end of the pier, and I understand this, they don't want competition. And I think that if you had a structure where you allowed these small-time buyers, if there's a person like Sam, person like myself, or whoever, if we do the fish ticket, if the wholesaler does the fish ticket, and there's a fee paid to the harbor, you could actually have increased competition, increased commerce in the harbor while generating more revenue for the harbor. Because I think that's very important, as well as telling you again, this issue with restricting competition is a very slippery slope. Go back and read those court cases, because some of the stuff that's happening in the harbor is illegal at a very serious degree. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Todd. Brandon Jenkins.
Okay, just a question about the pier, and then who's got priority? Because we're slip holders here, and then there's big trucks on the pier. And when the big trucks come to do their offloads, everybody gets kicked off the pier, regardless of who's there first or whatever. I feel that's super unfair. So we need to implement some kind of system or something that we all know that's, hey, this is the way it is, man. If you're here first, then the other guys can kick rocks, wait till we're done. And then also too, I know that the public hoist didn't make any money, you know, when they did that survey. Why don't we offer that to the third party people? That's a great place. You know, usually the third party buyers have their own ice, have their own little setup, their scale, all their stuff. Send them over there. We can track them. Boom, that's that, you know, the first come, first serve over there. You know, that's, I don't know, that's an idea, just it's what I thought here.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public on this? Captain Smith?
Yeah. Excuse me. Good evening. There was a couple issues that were raised by comments here that I wanted to address. First off is the barricades are an issue, especially for ADA. Access has been limited on several occasions for my passengers. I deal a lot with elderly and people that are at ADA. And I also have the right to board my passengers in a timely manner, as I have a tight back-to-back schedule, especially for my ashes scattering for these. So restricting the access for the public and from my clientele, I believe is a breach, and is something that will need to be addressed going forward. And then the other part of this was that since I am paying harbor ticket fees to operate in this harbor, is it not fair that others will skate by free of these fees? I think that there should be equity amongst all vessels in the harbor, whether they're transient or not. And then the third thing is just that I know that I speak for a lot of people when I say we feel like we're really being bullied when the squitters come to port. Thank you.
Captain Smith, I wasn't clear on both issue 2 and 3. Can you be a little bit more specific
I'm
on
sorry. Let me allow him to talk. There you go.
Okay. The issue with having temporary off-boat sales skate by on this is not really fair or equitable for those of us that do work in this harbor. And I just, like I say, I believe that since we're paying fees, that it's not fair to have others skate by not paying fees with a temporary permit. And then the third issue is that when the squid boats and the trucks are on the docks, we really feel like we're being bullied and pushed around to accommodate them. I think that it should be the other way around, that they should be accommodating us that are here on a permanent basis. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Captain Smith. And Veronica, your hand's up.
Yes, it is. I believe not the last person that commented, but the gentleman before him asked for each commissioner's comments on what he had to say, and I did not hear any comments. Could we go back to that?
Did comments on what issue, Veronica?
He was speaking in regards to the boats and the fees and just quite a different multitude of things, but he did ask specifically for the commissioners to comment on what he had to say. And
Is that the last comment? That's the last.
Not the last one, but the one before. Not the
Okay.
last.
No, I understand. There's nobody else that has their hand raised, so I'll turn this
Okay.
back over to the president of the board, President Ching Karali.
All right.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioners, any comments, thoughts? Commissioner Matoush, you are unmiked or unmuted. Would you like to make a comment?
I'm hearing a lot about people not seeing some of the safety issues and why we keep harping on safety. And some time that I've been in the harbor, I do recall a commercial fisherman that was run over by a truck I forget his name. This was early 90s. It was on the pier. Give you an idea, this guy used to be known for his fantastic, huge mustache. After the accident, he was unable to ever grow a mustache again, and he really stood out like that. It was a very traumatic and severe injury. So in the amount of time that I've been in the harbor, I've seen an accident like that. And the goal of the harbor district is to keep any and all people safe. Not only the people strolling up and down looking, the people buying fish, people coming down to the charter boats, the people that just want to get out of their house and look around. But it's a safety issue, and we have to always keep our eyes open for safety, because I have seen accidents there on the pier.
Thanks, Commissioner Matoush. Commissioner Lorenz.
Lots to say. I'll start off with Tom. You're absolutely right. I've been in meetings where we've been discussing this before, and there's a lot of stories. My favorite story, which seemed to have ended fairly well as far as human interactions were concerned, is when the forklift driver with a big load of squid, I think it was, did some fancy maneuvering and ended up dropping a big bucket of squid on top of a truck or a pickup. So, luckily nobody was hurt, but that kind of stuff does happen. And Tom, you're absolutely right. We want the place safe, and the fact that one or two people, if you're not around a lot, you don't see something, but we need to keep the place safe, and in spite of all the visitors, and we want to encourage folks to come. So there's going to be some compromises. It's just the way it is. I'd like to hear more about this topic overall. I get that we want to support our local fishermen, our local fish buyers. We want to allow at least some level of third-party fish selling. All that has to be done while accommodating all the other things that happen in our harbor. So this is not going to be an easy task for us. I'm hoping that we can discuss this with our staff at some point before we just vote on it, because there's a lot of issues here, and there's lots of ways to make this happen. We're not going to make everybody happy. That's not our job. Our job is to be as fair as possible, and in order to do that, we really need to hear from the public like we're doing now, and we need to vet our ideas, because we're not the ones out there every single day dealing with this.
Commissioner Zemke.
Yeah, I have nothing new to add, just to reiterate Tom and Ed's concerns for safety. Just because accidents aren't happening every day doesn't mean that we don't need to continually keep our eye on safe practices out there. Thanks.
So I'll just add my 2 cents here. I agree with all of the comments from my fellow commissioners regarding safety. I think it's one of our main missions is to keep our marina and harbor safe, clean, and environmentally friendly and fiscally, healthy, financially healthy. Pretty much in line with our mission. Regarding the issue of competition, I understand what the caller is saying, and I can totally sympathize. And it's something that we have to balance with those concerns with the buyers and our tenants who have paid for their right to buy fish. So I'm going to continue to research this, but I don't think there is an easy answer, but I am very sympathetic to what the caller said. But at the same time, I very, very strongly believe that we need to support our current tenants. So I'm going to continue to listen for any kind of public comments or questions that come up again. But I do think that our tenants, we have a responsibility to them as well. So, and they're paying for the right to be there and to do business. Jim?
Yes,
I mean, are there any more public comments on this issue, the non-lessee?
there is not.
I don't see any either. So would you like to go to the third issue of floating docks?
And it's, with your permission, I'd like to combine 3 and 4 because they're related.
Okay, so that'll be floating docks and the public hoist.
And the public hoist.
Yeah, okay, please.
The third issue tonight we're going to discuss is, should wholesale sale of fish products be allowed from the floating docks? Based on a recent condition survey of the floating docks indicating the docks have reached the end of their useful life, the physical limitations of the docks, the limited space, are the floating docks suited for commercial offloads? It's the opinion of staff that the individual fishermen should be allowed to offload their catch to themselves or transport off Pillar Point. However, based on the condition of the docks and the physical limitation of those docks, the wholesale offloads of seafood to third-party buyers should be limited or prohibited from the floating docks at this time. Related to that is the public hoist. The public hoist, a survey of local harbors that also have public hoists has shown that most, if not all, the public hoists are limited to fishermen offloading to themselves. They do not allow the offloading to third-party commercial buyers. I have been approached by several fishermen with respect to this hoist over the last couple of months, and the consensus from the hoist is the hoist should be limited to commercial offloads to should be limited and no commercial offloads to third-party buyers. Staff believes based on the location and limited space of the hoist, it's not well suited for commercial offloads. As such, the hoist should be limited to fishermen offloading to their own truck or vehicles and prohibit the use of the hoist for third-party commercial buyers. So if we prohibit the wholesale offload of fish from the floating docks and we prohibit it from the public hoist, the only option for a commercial fisherman to offload their catch wholesale would be to transport the fish off of Pillar Point to their own vehicles and trucks and conduct a sale off of Pillar Point property. So condition of the docks and then also the policy for the public hoist. So I'll open that up for public comment on, if anybody has public comment on one, the commercial docks, floating docks for commercial offloads, and then also taking comments on should the public hoist be restricted to individual use to offload to oneself and not allow third-party buyers to use the public hoist. Let me get back to my screen and participants. Sam, good evening.
Okay, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. So the offloading off of the floating docks, I definitely have an issue with that. If we can walk down the pier with a dolly and truck 500, 600, 700, 800 pounds of crab bait down to the boat on the floating dock, there should be no issue with us taking our fish and or crab up the public dock. My second issue with that is, like I said, I've been in Half Moon Bay 20 years. I've seen a lot of work going on in 20 years in the harbor, but it's been basically and mainly bathrooms, harbor master offices, trucks for the harbor patrol, other equipment. Very rarely do I see any of our money that we've paid go into preserving the structural integrity of the dock. I don't know if you guys have a plan to rebuild. If you're saying that it's getting to the end of life on these docks, then don't stop us from making our money. Use the money that we pay you guys to put in new docks, to make it structurally sound so we can continue our offloading. Like I said, as a rock fisherman, my deliveries, my offloads are usually between 160, 200 pounds at the most to a buyer. And like I said, if we have the right to truck 5, 6, 7, 800 pounds of bait down those docks, we should also have the right to truck 100, 200 pounds of fish up the docks to our buyers. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Good points. Todd Korth, 9711.
So I'm sorry. There's sometimes that Sam and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of stuff, but in this case, I'm 100%, 2,000% aligned with what he's saying. He's, got a small business. He's trying to make a living doing this stuff. You force every wholesale piece of business to go over the 3 tenants in the outside, of which, again, I'm going to highlight, there are Seafood Marketing Association directors, presidents that traditionally, you even go back to the John Dooley case years ago, engaged in illegal antitrust, anti-competitive marketing, or basically stifling competition. If you don't allow somebody like Sam, and there's a whole bunch of George, I could give you a list 20, 30 deep. If somebody wants to sell 300 pounds of crab to a small-time Sacramento live buyer, why can't we do that? Do we have to? If we try to go through any of those 3 hoists, we're going to be denied. So all I'm going to say, if you choose this option, commissioners, and I'd really like you to think about this, if you choose the option to restrict all this other type of small commercial activity going on in the harbor, you are choosing to enable this anti-competitive, anti-commerce, and bottom line is it is illegal. A lot of the stuff is illegal that is happening there, and you're going to enable it if you enforce no extra competition on the dock. Sorry, it's a very serious topic that's getting more and more heated, and I don't think that I'm just going to leave it at that, because it's getting to a point where you're going to put a number of people out of business, and it's not going to be good. It's going to be really, really bad. I'm done.
Thanks, Todd. I just want to remind everybody that this is a workshop and no decisions are being made tonight. The purpose of tonight was to gain input from the public and the users and the stakeholders, and we're receiving that input. So I appreciate your comment. Dennis Baxter.
Unmute. Hey, I'm kind of late to the game here. So am I on?
You are loud and clear.
Okay, so I just tuned in. The floating dock. So you're saying I'm at H1 when I get a handful of fish and want to truck them over to exclusive fresh, then that's putting that in a cart and taking it to my truck, filling out the proper permit to transport them would be eliminated? Is that any floating dock? You're talking about the little guys unloading fish and trucking them up lumping them up the existing floating docks? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, not at all, Dennis. That operation is not being considered. Or what we're recommending is that you're offloading to yourself and you're making a delivery. That's completely that's being recommended for being allowed at the docks and on the public hoist.
Okay, but you're talking about the little guy, the white van. I see Castanolas. I see people buying fish, or what's.
We're discussing commercial buyers driving out on the pier or coming to Pillar Point Harbor to buy wholesale fish from the fishermen. Not the fishermen offloading fish to themselves and making deliveries.
So that the Castanolas truck, the little trucks that you're talking, that would be eliminated? Again, I'm late to the game here. I didn't hear the initial part.
It all depends on what decisions are, but that's one option, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna get, it seems like it's squashing little Sam's, and I'm a part-timer. I see my time's out.
Thanks, Dennis. Porter McHenry.
Got me?
Got you loud and clear.
All right, I agree once again with staff. I think they let the fishermen, if they got a small catch, they fill out their transfer tag, do the correct paperwork, and if the harbor's, okay with them doing that, that's fine. Most of it's small amounts, and I don't think there's any intent of the harbor or anybody to take away these guys' small offloads. It's a big area we fish in. There's multiple ports in this area. I've gone to different ports to offload. I caught squid off of Fort Bragg, and I didn't have any market or anywhere to offload, so I had to come back to Half Moon Bay. It's a long run. I passed 3 ports to find my best market. Same thing with fuel. If I want fuel, I can buy it here. If I don't like the price, I go to a different port. The harbors let everybody have their dock sales, and the ability to move their own product. If they want to carry it off the pier in the correct way, that's up to them. With the public hoist, I kind of believe if guys want to use that in the same manner as a tenant, they should be at least required to pay roughly the same fees to get the same business opportunity. It's just not fair for somebody to pay these massive fees and rents when third party buyers would like the same thing for minimal cost. And a lot of that is going on. The harbor doesn't get any wharfage fees for the fish coming off the dock, so it should all be brought equal for everybody. And that'll work for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Porter. Frank Souza.
Hello?
Loud and clear, Frank. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to just point out that, I salmon fish up and down the coast too. And I have a small buyer. I don't sell to a big wholesaler. I have a small buyer who drives up and picks up my fish in a pickup truck and stuff. And we organize offloads through the businesses at the end of the pier. I unload through McHenry Fisheries when I'm here, but I also in Santa Cruz, we've unloaded through Hans, and they paid, my buyer had to pay him a fee for using the facilities and using his scale and having a place to use a hoist. And the same thing when I went to Fort Bragg. I went up to Fort Bragg. My buyer came up there. We didn't, that harbor, they didn't tell me, oh, you can go to the public hoist and cart it all up and you guys can do it in the parking lot if you want. They said, oh, you got to go through one of these guys. And Scott Hockett, talked to him, asked him, hey, I got my own buyer. Can I load here? He said, yeah, sure. No problem. They worked it out with him and whatever his fee was for using his hoist this time. And so I just wanted to point that out, that's pretty common that even anybody who has a buyer, if they want to do the transportation themselves, if that's small enough, then I think that's absolutely fine to truck it up and put in your cart and fill out. I've done that too, taken small amounts and filled out my transportation tag and done that too. But it's most of the guys know in the harbor that that's what we do. But there's guys who really, really want to make sure they make every last penny and not support the rest of everybody. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Frank. Sam.
You guys got me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things that I kind of wanted to reiterate on, because I know Dennis got in late, with me being a very, 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 very small fishing operation, every penny counts. Every penny counts. So if I have, and I'm in the live fish business, I don't have the capacity to offload to my own vehicle drive it off the dock, and then transfer these fish to another vehicle. Number one, it's time consuming. Number two, it's bad for the product. So for my restaurants to be able to pull out to the pier and I wheel up a couple of barrels, you know, that's crucial. The time and the more, you know, the longer the fish are out of water, the more they're handled, it's not good for my product. So by stopping my restaurants from coming down to the pier, letting me truck fish up to them on the dock, getting the fish off my boat to the buyer in a timely manner, I mean, that's crucial for my business. And the other thing, what I'm hearing is I'm hearing a lot of large operations saying, oh, everybody should pay the same fee. But the fees for a small operation like me, you know, it's very detrimental to my income and feeding my children. Every little penny counts for a small operation. You know, if you have a large operation and you know, you're going to the buyer, I mean, that's something different than a small operation trying to make his new fee, you know, a couple $1,000s, you know, here and there. You know, that, like I said, that small fee is a big percentage of my income. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it. So I heard a lot of conversation about the offloading from the floating docks. Was there any specific comment or questions or concerns anybody have with the public hoist on limiting it just to self offloads to yourself, or allowing third-party wholesale buyers to also be offloaded to? Anybody have a comment on that? Sam?
So, you know, if I have to go to the public hoist to offload, you know, as of right now, I think the public hoist is about $75 an hour. I think is that correct? Is that what you guys are charging?
I think it's 49, but I could be behind.
Okay, so it would typically take me roughly 10 to 15 minutes to offload my fish. I'm paying $50, and let's just say my buyer comes to pick up 100 pounds of rockfish. That's $800. It's only $800 that I'm making. You know, minus my fuel for the day, roughly 120 bucks, plus an extra $50 to use the hoist for 15 minutes. I mean, that, like I said, again, is a large percentage of my income. And that's what we need to figure out, is how the big buyers and the little buyers, you know, unfortunately, maybe we need to talk about a tiered payment system or a tiered percentage system, because I don't make anywhere near the money that a lot of these larger boats make, you know. I mean, nowhere near. I mean, I think if I could make a quarter of what they make a year, I would just retire. I'd call it quits, but I can't, because I'm the little guy. And the smaller you are, the more that little percentage is a drain on the income. All right, thank you.
Brandon Jenkins.
I just think that the public hoist would be a great place to put all the third-party buyers, and that if the end of the pier buyers are paying a percentage or a rate of offload to, you know, amount, you know, they offload a certain amount of catch, they have to pay that, then the other buyers should have to pay that same exact fee. It's not fair to have one person pay one fee and another one not pay a fee. You know, that's just the price of business. And then as far as the little, maybe that if you're a slip holder, then you get a certain amount of hours free on that, because you're paying to maintain that, you know, hoist out of your slip rate. So maybe since I pay my slip fee, then I get my 15 minutes a week free, or I don't know, more thoughts. And I think that, again, that it should be, try to be fair for everybody. And if we're charging those people at the pier, then we need to charge the people. And I don't think we should cease and desist anything, because that hurts everybody. You know, we just have to work around getting a little tax on it. That's it.
Thanks, Brandon. Dennis Baxter.
Yeah, if I was one of the main unloaders at the end of the pier, I'd be a little perturbed if there was massive amounts of untaxed, unregulated, the hoist is that big that much poundage going through the hoist instead of supporting the guys at the end of the 3 unloaders at the end of the pier. I don't think that's right. I think there should be some sort of if it's, I hate to have the little guy like Sam taxed, but again, I like to support the existing big businesses in the harbor so that they don't go away. Done.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it. Todd Korth.
Mute here.
Go ahead.
So you have a hoist there. Look at it as a revenue opportunity. That's all I would say. You have a hoist there. If you want to find a way for other small little guys to be able to offload there, or first of all, I think what Sam says about being able to get a dolly with a couple of garbage cans, haul his live fish up to a live fish buyer, fish market, etc. He should not be restricted from doing that. I really believe that. You need to enable the small guys as much as the big guys. And if that other hoist, people want to use it, figure out, have another conference call and figure out how we can generate some revenue for the harbor. And in Bodega, if you offload some fish there, hey, they charge you, I think, 10 cents a pound or whatever it is. And to Porter's point, there's got to be some equity. But that's a way for the harbor to generate some additional revenue that we can do some additional things with. That's it.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. Veronica.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to say in regards to the public hoist, that I know every time we use the hoist, we're paying for it. So it's not like the hoist isn't being used and the harbor is not being compensated for the use of the hoist, the public hoist. So, I mean, like I said, it's a good amount of money, that we have to pay whenever we use it. And it's for various reasons that we have to use it, whether it's for gear or whatever. The hoist still is generating income for the harbor. And I don't see that there needs to be an increase on any type of fees to implement a new system, to have a third-party buyer come in and charge them for use of the hoist. I don't see how that could be economical, because what kind of system would you have to implement to monitor such a thing? I mean, I don't see that being a large amount of revenue for the harbor to do it like that. That's all.
Thank you. Porter.
Hi, thanks again. Yeah, I just clarify my points on the hoist. It's pretty much the same issue I have with everything. It's, this talk of allowing third-party buyers in is just totally would, gut your existing tenants. We've been there for years, paying fees, and if you're willing to offer the same services for just minimal costs, I mean, we should reduce rents to your tenants at the end of the dock, or just let us, use public hoist for nothing, so that would overall be a detriment to the revenue of the harbor district, I believe. So yeah, just needs to be considered that you have existing tenants. We've been there for years. We're trying to run our best business possible, and let us do it. If there's opportunities that you could make a deal or try to offload. For Sam's case, I'm not opposed. If there's a limited, specialty live market buyer that needs fresh fish and they somehow can't work with one of us at the end of the dock, I don't know if Sam's ever approached us, but maybe we could work it out together. If that's impossible, maybe a small limited commercial activities permit would be available in a special circumstance. And that would go before the board and be able to vote it on then. So, you know, my thoughts are the hoist should be kept to load and offload gear. The harbor should stay out of the buying and all that nightmare of safety around that hoist in the middle of a parking lot and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Porter. President Crawley, that's all the questions and comments. I'll return the meeting back to you.
Thank you. I'll open it up to commissioner comments, questions, and discussion. Commissioner Lorenz, I see that you're unmuted. If you'd
Yeah,
like to start.
give me a second. I've got some notes I want to.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
Yep.
Commissioner Zimke, did you have any comments or questions?
Oh, I don't have any comments really, other than I do appreciate all the comments that we got from the public. Really gives us a lot to think about, and it really is valuable to us to hear what you have to say. I do want to compliment staff too for bringing these issues up and hopefully getting us to a point where we're consistent with our ordinances so that those two are in sync, whether that means changing our ordinances or changing the way that we do business. So thanks to Jim and all of the staff.
Commissioner Matoush.
Just look at the public hoist from an operational point of view. And it looks like, I'm not sure if the public can see the staff report where it talks about our expenses. So the last paragraph reads, in fiscal 2021, it cost the district $6,900 in maintenance fees and $2,275 in staff time to maintain the public hoist, while only collecting $2,000 in hoist fees at $46 an hour. So I think seat of the pants math says the hoist cost us last year $91.75. If it's $46 an hour, that's only 44 total hours used. In order to break even on the hoist, I would propose us looking at a steeply revised public hoist revenue schedule. Say, for instance, $100 to start the hoist, $200 of hoist time. If that 44 hours is correct, that would give us $8,800 in revenue plus a few starts. At least we're getting close to what it's costing us to operate that hoist. Operational point of view, I think that we have to severely look at the rate schedule on the public hoist.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Okay. Well, on the high level view of what's happening here is we're trying to find a way to accommodate folks with a limited resource. You know, the pier was built and operated for a completely different set of circumstances when it was finished. And now we have a lot more going on and a lot more demands on our pier and surrounding area. And so just for the public to and our tenants to know that I understand the conflicts, and it's up to us to listen to you all and to work with you all to come to some kind of way to make this work. With the respect to the public hoist and fees, you know, some of the things that we do at the harbor, we can't completely recover the funding, the cost of these things. We are an enterprise organization, so we do have to keep an eye on things, but there are some aspects of what we do that come from monies such as our taxes. And I've said it before, I think we need to think a little more carefully about how we fund our work at Oyster Point. I know I've said it a million times and it's coming up again, because we wouldn't have this problem if we hadn't signed these contracts with the city of South San Francisco, because we don't always own Oyster Point. And of course, all the deferred maintenance. So it's up to us to work out how to fairly use our resources, or allow the public and the commercial folks to use our resources, and we can't just ignore the fact that we've had a lot of deferred maintenance on things.
Jim, I think we have a hand raised from Veronica. I'd be happy to take her comment now.
Veronica?
Yes, just a quick comment regarding the public hoist. It just seems that the cost of maintenance does not seem to jive with the hours of operation, with how many hours have, been of the hoist use has been recorded. It seems like the maintenance cost seemed kind of high in regards to that. And that's all.
Thank you.
Jim, there's also Sam. I'm going to take public comment right now, push it back to you, send this back to you since there are some hands raised.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sam, go ahead.
Okay, so one thing I heard you say was that there are a lot of there is a lot of money that the Harbor Department puts out maintenance. One of the questions that I actually had was when you guys sold that property to the hotel or whoever you sold it to around Oyster Point, what was the amount that you guys received from that sale? Why has that not been put back into the harbor? Why has that money not been used for maintenance on the things that the slit payers pay and see nothing of? You know, the other question that I'd like to know too is, I know the Department of Boats and Waterways gives you guys millions of dollars every year. Where does that money go? Because I know we're not seeing it as far as maintenance aspects around Pillar Point. I don't spend much time at Oyster Point, so I don't know what's going on over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We did receive some grants and money from Boating and Waterways, and we do receive a grant for the boat disposal, but we do not receive millions of dollars in grants from the Office of Boat and Waterways anymore. So just to clear that up. And I'd have to research your question about the property at Oyster Point. Porter.
Yeah, well, I got, you guys here. I just wanted to thank the commission and staff for having these meetings. I've been pretty much full time at the harbor for the past 20 years, really involved, last 10 to 12 years. And it's never been this open and ability to communicate with the commission and staff as it is presently. And I think it's great. I just want to thank you guys for opening up to the public, making everybody feel heard, and trying to actually hear input from all the parties. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Porter.
Any other commissioner comments or questions? Commissioner Lorenas, I see that you're unmuted, but if you don't have
I'm
anything else.
staying unmuted, but I can
Okay.
I'll say a few words.
Okay. Sorry, Ed. It's just sometimes it's almost like a signal if there's an unmuted.
That's fine. I have to agree with Porter on that we're working towards being a little more open, especially when you have the meetings at this hour when folks can really attend and give us a little more attention. And I don't think we can make the right decisions without the input from the folks that we're listening to. I think we need to have a way to communicate amongst the public and the commissioners to get to the right place. And staff, you have your work cut out for you, because you're going to have to come back with us with some ideas and maybe even through some discussions with us, because there's some important concepts here. And I'd like to point out that with respect to Oyster Point, you know, we've had a lot of meetings about what's been happening at Oyster Point, and the district doesn't have a lot of money coming from Oyster Point to us. It's the other way around. We're spending money there, just to be clear about that. Can't hear you, Virginia.
Sorry. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Mateusz, I see that you're unmuted as well. Thanks, Commissioner Lorenz, for reminding me to unmute.
No, I just believe Commissioner Lorenz and I are unmuted and participating.
Okay. Commissioner Zemke.
Find the unmute button.
You're on mute, Bill.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button and lost my screen there for a second. I have no further comments.
Okay, so I'll just make one comment. I mean, I, like other commissioners here, appreciate the public's comment and participation. I think these public workshops have been beneficial, and I want to thank the general manager and our staff, who's been fantastic in getting all the information together. So thank you, Julie, John, Jim, for doing a lot of great work. I want to just kind of address the last issue that was brought up regarding the public hoist, and I think it's I'm going to look forward to the staff's report, based on feedback today. But I have to, agree with what Commissioner Mateusz was saying, that we are an enterprise district. Somewhat 40% of our revenues are derived from our businesses and the revenues that come in from that. But again, at the same time, I understand that this is a public facility. So, there's again always a need to balance what we bring in and, how we deal with charging tenants as well. But I think that it's important to note that as an enterprise district, that, we do have a responsibility to make sure that revenues come in and that the Harbor District is able to recoup the cost of running the operations, and quite frankly, making a little bit of money, so that we can continue to maintain the pier. But I do think that everything today was very useful to hear, and so I'm looking forward to the staff's report. Thanks, Jim.
And if we're running out of things to say, perhaps we could entertain a motion to adjourn. So I'll make that motion.
Well, hold on, Commissioner Lorenz, did you want to say?
Thank you. But I'd like to ask my fellow commissioners what the follow-up on this is going to be. Because in my view, what we need to do is, like I said in our last meeting, is we need to see the staff report, give them time to get that together, and then I believe we need to have a meeting such as this so that we can get feedback from the public. And I realize it's asking for another meeting, it's asking for put a strain on the commercial folks that are here, but these are important issues, they're complicated, and no negative comments about staff, but they have to synthesize everything that we said, what the public said, and get it back, in my view, get it back out so that we can have a discussion with everyone concerned before we just sit in a regular meeting where we can't have discussions and we just vote it up or down. So I'd like to know what we're going to do.
I believe
Commissioner Mateusz.
it seems like we're synthesizing what we've heard tonight from our regarding this whole topic. We have a meeting coming up. We're going to look forward to a staff report. Many of these things are time sensitive because we're being asked at the consideration of staff, and I will totally agree with that. If there's any fee changes, we'll see them January 1st. So we do have a timeline, this being the end of September. So I look forward to the staff report because we can discuss this again, bring things up. And there'll be also time for public comment at the public or at the regular board meeting as well.
Well, just to follow up with you, Tom, the problem, as I said before, our regular meetings, because of the Brown Act restrictions, we're not allowed to have back and forth discussions with members of the public. So we can't ask them questions for clarification. So whatever we hear from staff and whatever we hear from the public, it's not a discussion, it's a one-way street. And I don't think that's a great way to get this accurately done. I'll leave it that way.
Commissioner Zemke?
I guess my thought, I'm tending to agree with Ed on this. We've talked about some issues that apparently are going to have a big impact on a number of people one way or the other. And I think trying to come up with a compromise that's fair and equitable to everybody is really going to take some ingenuity from our staff. And I would be in support of another workshop if staff feels that's necessary.
Jim, what are your thoughts?
I can go either way. If we want to have this come back to the board, I can have the staff report done for the November board meeting. We would not be able to get it turned around for the October board meeting. I plan on getting the staff report done as soon as possible, though, and putting it out to the public at least a few weeks before the board meeting, so we can get input and feedback from most everybody on this phone call today. And the fishermen and involved parties would be able to comment on what the staff report says and be able to fully participate in the board meeting if that's the direction the board meeting wants to go. But I can also do a workshop again to do this same thing and get the comments verbally for up front and then present it to the board. So either way works for me.
Okay, I think we have 2 public comments on this. I'll open it up to public comment now.
Hi, guys, this is Sam Segugan.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
First, I would like to thank you guys for these workshops, because I mean, as a small businessman, as the little guy, I mean, you have no idea how good it feels to be heard, to actually have a voice. Normally we don't have that. People make decisions, we have to deal with whatever the decision is made. But I did have a question. I thought we would probably tonight be addressing that 2% dock sales tax. Is that something that's going to come up again in the future? Because I do have, some data, some research, and some comments on that as well.
Is that for the off the boat sales, Sam?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was discussed Tuesday night, but please, if you want to share your information with me, please forward it to Melody Haddon, her name, or if you have my email, or not, give it to Melody. Her email address is on the agenda.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Sam.
And Brandon Jenkins.
Oh, that
Go
was
ahead,
an
Brandon.
accident. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Brandon put his hand down. No further public comment, President Crowley.
No, I think he's
trying
to get in.
Yeah, he wants to talk.
I just wanted to say thanks.
You muted yourself again, Brandon.
There. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
I just wanted to say, yeah, thanks for taking the public comment. And I think these workshops are great. And I really feel all you guys commissioners are doing a great job.
Thank you. So my thoughts, Jim, are that, we've had this public workshop. We've had many public workshops. And while this is just one issue, and it's not a small issue, and I'm not trying to belittle the issue, this does fall under the whole big category, or the general category of revenue and income, and how we're dealing with that. So, I mean, I appreciate the public's input, but I also think that we have to make a decision, and we need to, kind of move forward, as a whole package, just like we had on Tuesday, where, we've discussed the commercial activity permits issue, and we've had some discussion on this as well. And again, the public can make public comments at the meeting. And, while we can't address the public directly, that doesn't mean that we can't address the issues amongst ourselves, which is exactly what public comment is meant to do, is for the commissioners to kind of take into consideration. So, I mean, I would rather kind of get a staff report ready and get this issue put aside, along with the commercial activity permit issue. But I'm just one of four here. I mean, maybe what we do is, Jim, why don't you put together a staff report and see if, if there are any holes that we need to kind of look at, and we'll go from there.
I have a
Does
question
that
for
sound
Jim.
okay? Sorry, Ed?
I have a question for Jim.
Okay.
So did I hear you correctly that your intent is to get the staff report out to the publics and encourage them to give you some feedback on it?
Yes.
Get it out and okay. Yeah, I think that'd be fantastic if you could get that.
Does that help kind of allay your concerns, Ed?
Well, I'd prefer another meeting, but if we can do it that way, that at least the public, especially the folks that have been at this meeting and have voiced their concerns, they can have another chance at reading it and then making their comments, and maybe even go back and forth with Jim. It's different that way because it's unilateral. The conversations will be one-on-one. It's then folks aren't going to be hearing what everybody else is saying. So it's not quite the same as a workshop, but it's better than nothing.
Well, I would also urge, people who are interested in the topic, and not just this one, but also the commercial activity permit topic, to be at the meeting as well. Bill or Tom? Or Tom, you got you're unmuted. I don't know if you have anything to say.
No, it's just listening to everything. More public input we get is good, but at the same time, we're hearing back and forth about our enterprise district responsibility, our funding, and there are things that we have to look at overall, but I do appreciate all the members of the public that shed information towards these issues.
Bill?
Yeah, I could live with this. If push comes to shove and it's just too complicated, in November, we can always come up with a different decision.
You mean October?
And well, no, I think the staff report comes out in Jim was saying in November, that he doesn't have time to turn it around for October.
Oh, is that right, Jim? Or was it a public meeting that would cause the delay? Either way is fine. I just want to get clarity.
No, both these issues are complex, and I want to make sure that I get them all well documented with plenty of support, and also get the input from the individual stakeholders so that the board can have the most complete and full board package to make a decision by.
So you're thinking on the November agenda, right?
Yes,
Or
November 17th.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay.
I'd love to be able to turn it around for October, but I don't think
It's
I'll
going to
have
be
a complete
hard. So
package.
no, I think that the more solid the report, the better. So, I mean, no one's rushing you.
And I'm out
I
of
just
town.
probably misunderstood. I mean, in terms of just the public meeting, another public workshop, in time. So.
And I have a
that's fine.
port captain's harbor master meeting that's in a week. So that takes another week away from me for October. So definitely looking for having my reports done by the end of October or first week of October, and then so I can, or November, sorry, and that so I can share it and people have plenty of time to read it and comment, and maybe I can edit it based on those comments.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioner comments, questions, discussion? I don't see any more hands raised, so I'll close public comments at this point. Tom, I think you had a motion to adjourn earlier.
It'll be the official motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
I can second that.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, let's do a
Aye.
roll call, please.
Aye.
Roll call,
Commissioner
please,
Zemke,
Melanie.
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chancarelli.
Aye, so the meeting is adjourned at 7:45. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you, staff, for a great public workshop.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Virginia.
commissioners.